Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the go-to platform where faith-driven entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and experts share their stories, wisdom, and expertise to inspire and impact others. This isn't just another interview series. This is a strategic platform designed to amplify the voices of high-level entrepreneurs, which especially includes kingdom entrepreneurs who are making a real difference in their industries. My goal is simple: to serve you, the expert, by giving you a stage to share your message, expand your reach, and create lasting value for others. Through authentic, in-depth conversations, we uncover the real journeys, challenges, and victories behind today's leading experts. Each interview isn't just content, it's a powerful asset that helps you to establish authority, increase visibility, and connect with the right people. So with that, let's dive into today's episode. Once again, welcome. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to yet again another episode with Expert Interviews with Ken. And today I have a special guest. I've got Mandy Nicholson, and she is a creative genius consultant, artist, and author, and owner of Creative Retreat in Scotland. And she helps creative women to launch, grow, and scale their businesses and make more money. And I know that she's got a lot more credentials than that. And I'm going to have her unpack that today as I hand the mic over to Mandy. And let's unpack everything that is all about you, your story, and all of that. So welcome, Mandy. I'm really glad that you're on the show today.
Thank you, Ken. It's a pleasure to be here. I can't wait to get started.
Amazing, amazing. So go ahead, unpack your story. Who you are, what it is you do, why you do what you do, and how all that came about. Just unpack it all.
Okay, gun pack it all. We'll be here for a while then. That's all I've got to say about that. Because I'm not a young bird anymore. I'm 60 years young. It turned 60 in
I
2024.
was gonna say you look 40.
Thank you.
You're
You're
welcome.
my favorite person. Um, So yeah, I've had a very, very full and exciting life. And I think probably my biggest message to the world, yes, I am the creative genius consultant. I am an artist. I am an author. I own a creative retreat in Scotland. But I started out like most creatives do, hiding that creativity because it's
Mm,
not deemed as important as academic subjects. And you feel a bit weird when you're a creative. You feel like the weirdo in the room, and then you're being told not to be creative because it's
mm,
not going to get you a job that pays you any money.
right.
So, from a very young age, you end up kind of doing things that you don't love. And life is all about doing things that you love, but you don't learn that till later on in life. So,
Right.
I had that big push and pull going on that I've found since that a lot of creatives go through. Um, and there's some huge statistics there. 83% of gallery exhibitions are white men. 70% of women who get a degree in creative subjects end up in administrative jobs. And it's just almost a dead end career. So I, like most creatives, didn't follow it. I was good at school, did my academic subjects. I did go and do a degree in art and design, but couldn't find a job after I'd got that degree in art and design. So I felt like I'd wasted 3, 4 years of my life.
Mm,
So I feel like I was finding my path for so many years and ended up doing a proper job like most people do. And I think when that happens, it leaves you there's a void inside you. You're
right.
fairly unfulfilled because you're not doing the thing that lights you up the most and you're not doing it every day. And in fact, my creativity lay dormant from uni for almost 35 years before I picked up a paintbrush again.
Wow.
I know it's quite scary, isn't it? How much that can impact a person's life.
Yeah, it is.
And it's such a big way of expressing yourself. I didn't write, I didn't paint. I ended up with my proper job in retail. Now, as us creatives are very good at fitting in and masking and doing the proper job really well. And I was really good at my proper job. And I worked for some big brands in retail, and I ended up as a senior leader with a company car and a six-figure salary, and was very successful. And I think I was constantly looking for that success in order to fulfill me, because I wasn't doing the thing that I should be doing. So you end up in this life that, you're constantly trying to fill the void and you never actually do. So I had money. I, won awards. I earned maximum bonuses. I earned a lot of money, but there was still this huge void that was inside of me that was creativity. And I suppose that's the story of my life. And then what I've realized along the way is it's not just my story. And at some point, you have to step into that, be the person who you truly are, and
Hmm.
then help others to get there as well. So I
Mm.
suppose it's become a calling for me, which is why I describe myself as the creative genius consultant. I decided to step up and go, you know what? I'm going to be a beacon for creative women to be able to come towards, and I'm going to teach them how to do business, because the one thing I learned on the way was how to do business. And that also became part of my story. So, I mean, it's an even bigger story than that, because what also brought me to creativity and where I am now was losing everything. I had all this success, and in 2009, I was driving to my big job at IKEA, and a deer jumped out into the middle of the road. I swerved to avoid it, had a car crash, and that very thing triggered a series of unfortunate events that are the stuff of legends. So, car crash, seriously injured, ended up with time off work. That resulted in me losing my career, losing my job. My husband had been having an affair. I found out because I was at home. So my marriage collapsed, my 13-year marriage. My son was diagnosed with autism. My dad was diagnosed with cancer and died 47 days later. My sister had been struggling financially in a business that I had helped to get into. So I was personally liable for. And I ended up bankrupt and lost all of my money. So lost all my money, lost my marriage, my dad died, my son was being diagnosed with autism, and on Christmas Eve 2009, I was made homeless from the beautiful farmhouse that we lived in.
Dang.
It was a big, and that all happened in 12 months. Um,
Some people say from rags to riches. In your case, it's from riches to rags.
it was abundance to bankruptcy, and then back again. And the journey, so my journey's been that, fall from grace, but then I've rebuilt that. So that was 2009, and I literally moved into social housing as a single mum with two kids, two dogs, no job, and said, what am I going to do about this? I either stay here at rock bottom in my social housing, or I rebuild. And I made the decision to rebuild. I had all this knowledge, all of these skills, all of this business knowledge for 30 years in retail, and a degree in art and design. And the companies I'd worked for had also put me through a degree in management studies. And I signed up to do a degree in psychology, and I had six coaching qualifications. I was well qualified, well knowledgeable. Just unfortunate that all of this stuff had happened to me. And I think, this is what makes us as human beings. We decide to stay somewhere or we decide to change it. And very quickly, I built a cleaning business. So I was like, what can I do really quickly to make money? I know I'll start a cleaning business. I live in an area of hospitality. So that's what I did. And whilst I was doing that, I needed to make enough money to feed the kids, to pay for the dance lessons, to keep them from knowing how poor we were,
Mm.
because I didn't want them to all of a sudden lose everything. Their dad had gone, they'd lost the granddad, they'd lost the house we lived in. There was just us and the dogs, and I had to keep some sense of normality for them. So very slowly I rebuilt. I got very good and I worked on my money mindset. I worked with, I did Jack Canfield's program. I did Bob Proctor's. I got into The Secret in a big way. Studied hard, worked hard, and rebuilt my life. And 10 years later, in 2019, I bought my dream home for cash. My £500,000 dream home for cash. I'd met my dream man along the way and remarried, and he was my soulmate. So at the end of 2019, I also launched my dream business, my creative business. I published my book, The Life I Won. So I was living in our dream home with my dream man, with my kids, really happy, launched my new business, had everything, had rebuilt it all. And then what happened in 2020? The
Oh,
pandemic.
Lord. Don't even get me started. That is a loaded question you do not want me like answering because I will go full force. But
Yeah.
I call it the scamdemic.
Yeah. It happened and the world completely changed, didn't it?
Hmm.
Everything changed. I just got to this place of recovery, not just recovery, but huge success. Not many people can say they go to rock bottom and then they can go and purchase a house for cash and launch their dream business and have all the things. But that's where I was, and the pandemic hit, and what happened with the pandemic is my soulmate, Gary, who I'd met along the way, and we'd had 7 amazing years together, got sick and ended up in hospital and
Mm.
died. And I lost him in April of 2020,
Mm.
just as we had everything and we'd had 7 months in our dream home.
No.
And my world came crumbling down again. But he was the one who pushed me to follow my dreams and
Mm.
launch my dream business and go and be the creative I was always destined to be. So I owed him to keep going. Yeah, I owed him. He was the one who pushed me, so that's exactly what I did, and I went all in. I had nothing to lose at that point. What could I lose? I'd already lost everything twice, so I was like, you know what? Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put a castle on my vision board. I want to own a castle in Scotland where I can run creative retreats for women from all over the world, and that'll be a fantastic synergy for with my creative mastermind and my creative business and my art and my writing. That's what I want to do. So I put it on my vision board, and it wasn't just a castle. Yeah, I registered with Savills, who are the estate agents in Scotland who sell castles. You go on Savills in the UK, you will find it's the estate agent that sells Scottish castles. It was an amazing find in COVID. I spent hours looking at castles and decided that I didn't need to just have a castle on my vision board. I needed to know how much a castle was going to cost, yeah, how much it was going to take to run, what I would need to have in funds in order to be able to make that dream come true and cost it out and figure out how many years it would take me to get there. So that's exactly what I did.
Mm.
I stuck the castle, and it was Brecon Castle in Dundee, and it was £3 million. So I had this numbers crunched, and it was at the top of my vision board, and I needed to make 6 million in order to buy this castle. So that became a 10-year plan for me. It was going to take me 10 years to make that. That's what I kind of figured out. So that was in after Gary had died, and we were trying to make things work. 11 months after he died, I decided that I should just sell the house and move to Scotland and feel the goal of owning a castle more deeply. If I was in Scotland, I could feel it more deeply.
Mm.
So I put the house on the market and sold it the same day for the full asking price from a cash buyer. And I was then, okay, the universe is sending me a signal here. I really do need to move to Scotland. So came up to view some houses, and the universe put in front of me a miniature version of the very castle that was on my vision board in the form of an ex-bank. It looked exactly the same, red sandstone with a big sweeping staircase and a walled garden, but it was a fraction of the price. And it was almost like the universe was saying, do it now.
Mm,
Don't wait. Do it now. Don't wait 10 years. Do it now. And I was like, sometimes you've got to listen and see what's put in front of you. And this is kind of the ethos by which I live my life now and by which I run my business is watch for the signs because they're always there. And I came to view this property and thought, yeah, it needs renovating, needs a lot of work, it needs money putting into it. Maybe this is the thing that's going to give me purpose again after the death of my husband. So maybe I need a purpose project. And I decided to just put a cheeky offer in. And I bought it and I renovated it. And this is where I run my creative retreats now. So I have this wonderful Victorian property with 3 floors. I have 3 amazing rooms that I can bring women here for retreats. I have a Van Gogh room, a Monet room, and a Picasso room. And I've done all the interior design. It's like a walk-through gallery. I've got this garden out back where on the retreats people paint bricks in walls and paint the old doors that were in the property before I changed them for fire doors. It's quirky. I'm that mad creative woman that lives in your town that has a weird property and does interesting things. So yeah, and I absolutely love it. So it's got huge synergy. I've now got my coaching business, the creative mastermind, my creative business, my art, my writing. I had a #1 best-selling book last year, Beyond the Ordinary. So there's so much now. My life is packed full, and it's packed full because of all the horrible things that happened along the way, because they were just lessons. They were
mm,
nudges from the universe for me to go back to roots, to go back to the core of who I am. So it's a big story. I can tell it in a short amount of time now because I know it well,
right.
but it's a big story. And there's lots of things along the way. Relationships have changed and people have come and people have gone. Um, but I've stayed on purpose. I've stayed on purpose with my vision. I've helped thousands of women, creative women, to find their passion, to make money in their businesses, to become best-selling authors in Beyond the Ordinary. I continue to do that. And I think I will do that now until I retire.
That
So
is
there you go. There's my story. Ask me loads of questions because I'd love to dive deep.
that is I don't even know what to say about that story. Like that's quite a story. But and I was writing this down as you were talking because I'm like, you were brought through quite a few, what am I going to call it? Challenges.
Mhm.
Challenges and valleys in your journey.
Yeah.
And you chose, instead of becoming a victim of those circumstances, you chose to pivot
Mhm.
and to go in a different direction, which doesn't mean the circumstance ever went away. It means that you just chose not to be a victim and you chose to rise above. You chose to learn. You chose to grow. And that's all part of the journey. And what's interesting about that is one of the core value philosophies that I teach and what I do with my clients. It's the
Mhm.
journey of becoming. Some of the audience, maybe someone out there, this is the first time you've ever seen me on YouTube or anything like that. So maybe you don't know, I'm a weight loss coach and I've lost 62 and a half pounds and I've kept it off for going on 7 years now. How I've kept it off is literally that becoming process because it's all about the inward change in here and up here. That is how you produce permanent results in a weight loss journey. And so it's the core philosophy, the journey of becoming. And it's about embracing. the challenges and trials of your journey in order to grow, get stronger, and get wiser. And that is exactly what you did in your
Mhm.
journey, which is why you're so much of a successful business person today. You're a successful coach. You've got your own retreat place and all the things that come along with that. And it's not, you didn't do it in a way to where, it's like flashy or anything like that. You grinded through that journey.
Mhm.
And that's the key. There's no magic trick to it. You had to really just grind through that journey and be determined that you were going to come out the other end stronger, wiser, and better. I think that is such a powerful story. It's unfortunate the things that you had to go through and losing two husbands. Um, but it's it's that's who you are now. And that's the power of it.
And it shapes you so much as a person. And this is life is going to throw us curveballs, no
Mm,
matter, wherever you're born, whatever um, sort of level of life you're born into, there are going to be disasters, aren't there? There are going to be challenges. There are going to be people that die around you. There are going to be, you're going to lose things. You're going to have money, lose money. It's always going to happen. It's the choices that you make. And I'm a
yes.
great believer in that you already have all that you need right now, wherever you are in life, you already have all that you need to change it. It is growing into that knowledge that you already have it. It's the self belief, the self confidence, and almost the devil may care attitude of what's the worst that can happen. It's
Mm.
already happened.
I still can't even ask that question. What's the worst that going to happen? No, don't say that.
No, okay, it's happened to us as a society with the pandemic, the scamdemic, as you call it.
Yeah.
It's happened to us as a society. We've watched wars and awful things happening in countries around the world. We're watching them right now in different, places around the world. The pandemic, air crashes and hundreds of people, that horrible things happen all the time. The Twin Towers. All of these things are disasters, and you never know. It's a split second from them not being there to them being there, and it's going to happen to each and every one of us. It's how
Mhm.
you bounce back from that and how you step into this innate power that you have. Because you and I, we're amazing people.
Mhm.
We were always amazing people. We're filled full of skills and knowledge and empathy and kindness that can
Yes.
impact others. But some people live in fear and it's hidden under a blanket of fear. And I think once you remove that blanket of fear, which I did when I hit rock bottom, I was like, well, what's the worst that can happen now? I might as well just do everything and see where it goes.
I love that. Right? I love that. I love that. Now, a curious question here. How would you define creativity? What does it truly mean to be creative?
I think it's a state of mind because creativity shows up in so many different ways. It's not just an artist or an author, it's singers, it's dancers, it's people that think creatively. So they come up with ideas, solutions, solution based. I think entrepreneurs by nature are creatives.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And I think there's the element of society. We've got this left-brained element of society that we need, the bankers and the accountants and they need to be there because they keep us grounded and stable because God help us if it was all entrepreneurs. We'd be off doing ridiculous things and taking risks and we need that stability. I think there's a balance there. We need the left and right brain. Some of us have an element of both. I'm neurodiverse myself. I'm autistic. Both of my children are autistic. It creates a very different thinking pattern, and I have the ability to switch left and right brains. I've got the logical side and the planning side, but also the side that hates that and wants to go and paint all day and not do that. So I'm in this constant battle with myself as well, which I think a lot of creatives are as well. We are grown-ups and know that we've got to be responsible, but we'd much rather be dancing through a field of daisies, painting a landscape or
Mm.
writing something. Yeah. And I think creativity is about a thought process. I've sat with people that are not creative and had conversations, and they have said to me, they just can't imagine what it's like to be able to put color together or design their homes. They've got beige interiors and can't think outside that, and they struggle to think outside that.
That
And I
sounds
struggle to understand that.
it sounds almost like so also in what go over with my clients. And as a matter of fact, I was talking with one of my clients the other day about this. You've got two different type of people. You've
Mhm.
got the fixed mindset person, and you've got the
Mhm.
growth mindset person. The
Yep.
fixed mindset person, they've done so many studies on this. This is a person, for example, they would take a test. So this person would be presented with a test, a really hard and difficult test. And one of two things would happen with a fixed mindset person. Number one, either they'll look at the test and go, oh, there's just no way. And they decide that they'll never be able to pass the test. It's just not a skill that they're able to have. They've got their own like innate um, gifts and skills that they were born with, and it's in their genetics, and that's all that they will ever have. And so the whole idea of taking the test, failing it, and learning from that, and then eventually getting to the point to passing the test does not occur to the fixed
Mhm.
mindset person. And the person you just described in the beige rooms and all that other stuff reminded me of that. The other thing that will happen often with a fixed mindset person is they will take the test and they
Mhm.
will fail. And they will use that failure as a dictation on their intelligence.
Yep.
I'm not smart enough and I will never be. And this is just the way things are. Then you have the growth mindset people. These are the people that literally will take on a test like that as an opportunity to gain a skill that they did not have before.
Yep.
See, they see their gifts and abilities that they already have, but they also see the possibility and opportunity to gain more skills and gifts and abilities through learning, through the challenges, and through all of that. That's the big difference between the fixed mindset and the growth mindset person.
And it's very similar to the creatives and the non-creatives, because the creatives would take the test and the answers they didn't know, they'd wing it and guess and can connect the dots and make their best guess with it. And if they didn't pass, they'd go, oh, well, what didn't I pass on? How can I get it better next time? And that's kind of the creative brain is always seeking the solutions and the answers, not just to the test, but to life, to color,
Mm-hmm.
to space, to relationships. There is so much, I could say I wrote a book last year and had a number 1 bestseller, but I also invited 30 women to come and join me in that book and tell their stories and made them number 1 bestsellers. Because why would I just do it myself? That would be fairly boring. Let's
Right.
do, yeah. And then once the book's a number 1 bestseller, I've gone, oh, we could turn that into a podcast. Let's do a podcast. And this is the creative brain. It's the growth mindset. What can we do next? What's next?
Mm-hmm.
And creatives challenge the status quo. We ask, what if? Why not? What's next? And that's the growth mindset that you're talking about. It's not
Yes.
fixed. It's very much tell me more.
Another way of putting it is that's the all that no 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 that's the no matter what mindset person.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's another way of putting it. Yep. And I love that. So, we're talking about neural diversity as well. How does that, so we're talking about creativity and neural diversity. How do those two marry together? How do those two work in harmony together? Can you unwrap that a little bit?
I would love to, and that's I love to talk about that because that is I've got my book here, the Beyond the Ordinary, and that's exactly what I talk about in this book. It fascinated me, this connection I was seeing between neurodiversity and creativity. And the reason I was seeing it because I was gifted two children that are on the autism spectrum, both of them autistic. My daughter's ADHD and autistic. My son is autistic. And I learned loads from being a mum to those two autistic children and learning all about it. That's why I did my psychology degree so that I could understand more. I did child psychology so I could
Mm.
understand autism more. And I went to all the parenting classes and I went and learned everything I could about the condition. And then I realized that this connection between creativity and neurodiversity, both my children responded better when we came up with creative solutions to the things that they were struggling with.
Oh.
So we introduced creativity into the daily run of things. Let's come up with this, let's draw it, let's color it, let's write about it, let's do all of that. So don't worry about, struggling with problems because we can paint our way out of them or we can craft our way out of them. And what happened with that was because I encouraged that in both of these neurodiverse children, I could see the reason I had held back from my creativity because I was masking in a world that expected me to be more academic and have a proper job.
Mm.
And I didn't want my children to have to do the same. So what naturally happened was because I was encouraging them through creativity, my daughter's gone on to do a degree in art and design, and she's just got a first class honours degree. My son is an animator and illustrator, and that's what he's done at college and uni. And it was natural for them to follow that path instead of being pushed down the academic routes. And I thought, oh, this is really interesting. Let's explore more.
Mm.
Then the women that were joining me on my creative mastermind were explaining to me that they had been, doing a proper job instead of what they wanted to do. It was a nice hobby, but they'd never make any money from it. So therefore, they'd squashed all their skills. And when they let them out, I started to ask questions. Do you think you could be neurodiverse? And many of them were being diagnosed with ADHD or autism through my program by
Mm.
going and referring themselves. And I thought there's a real connection here, a real connection between neurodiversity. And I'd written myself, I think you've got the link for my freebie called
Yes.
The Mind of a Creative. So I'd written this document, all the observations that I'd made in my children and that I was making in these women that were working with me. And I started it off by writing the very first thing down. Your mind literally never slows down. I was seeing it in creatives, I was seeing it in neurodivergence. The hallmark of a creative and neurodiverse mind is a relentless stream of thoughts and ideas that never slows down. It's like it's on speed, it keeps going. And it can be exhausting and it can be exhilarating and it can cause overwhelm and emotional dysregulation. But it also can create these amazing ideas and creative projects. So I was like, oh, there's also two sides to this. Neurodiversity doesn't have to be a bad thing, just like creativity doesn't have to be a negative thing, and you'll never make any money from it.
Mm.
So I wanted to flip the coin a bit. And that's why I wrote the book. I ended up with 35 observations that I'd seen in my kids and my clients. And when I compared them to the diagnosis for ADHD and autism, it was almost the same list. And I was like, oh, there's something in this. There's a real connection here. And I think the whole world, it's trending at the minute, isn't it, to be autistic or ADHD? And it's
It
not
is.
trending. It's not really trending. It's
Right.
the,
And I agree with you. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. It's because I recognized that recently over the past 4 to 5 years, all of a sudden everybody's autistic or everybody's got ADD or whatever. And I'm just like, I have ADHD legitimately.
yeah,
But all you have is just you have a hard time paying attention because you've been so used to scrolling through reels, and now that's your attention span. That's actually
Yeah.
what's going on. Yeah.
For a lot, yeah. But also remember, I'm 60 and I'm undiagnosed with autism. I know I'm autistic. I don't need to get the diagnosis. If I want to be diagnosed, there's a 7-year wait list in Scotland to be diagnosed with autism. I'll be dead before I get diagnosed. What's the point? I'm 60 and I didn't die.
Hey, don't say
And I
that. No, no, no. You have quite a few years left.
Yeah, I've got decades yet. No, I mean, I'm 60 and I didn't kill anyone and I didn't die. So I think I can survive the rest of my life without that piece of paper. But for my kids, it's really important that they were diagnosed because it helps them to tap into resources that they wouldn't have if they weren't
Mm.
diagnosed. So there is that. The reason it seems to be trending is there are loads of middle-aged women that were fobbed off with anxiety, depression, and other mental
There you go.
health. Yeah. And all of those things are actually symptoms of ADHD and autism. So, where they've been dismissed with women's problems or mental health issues, a lot of the time it's actually been because they're ADHD or because they're autistic. So, I was also seeing this, and because I work with women, creative women, it was becoming really, oh my goodness, like 80% of the women that are coming to me are ending up diagnosed with spectrum disorders.
Mm.
Isn't that a strange thing? And it's because they've spent their whole life being dismissed. Do you know the system is set up to for men? It's diagnosed, it's based on boys and men. It's easier to diagnose boys and men than it
Hmm.
is to diagnose women because of all these things, women's problems and time of the month. And yeah, it's just a woman being neurotic. It's just a woman overthinking things.
Oh my God.
Women mask better from an earlier age than men. And it's a system that's set up to diagnose boys and men. So lots and lots of women are overlooked and dismissed. So that's why it appears to be trending because now women are going, you know what? You fobbed us off and we're not being fobbed off anymore. We're actually going to stand up and say, we're not neurotic. We're not the weirdos in the room. We're not witches. We've actually got a condition that's very easily diagnosed in boys and men and not so much in women. And that's why it appears to be trending. So I've seen all of these connections, and that's where the book came from. I decided to take the observations and write a chapter on each, and then introduce 30 women that had neurodiversity and creativity going on in their lives and ask them to come and tell their stories. And you know what happens when you're undiagnosed as a woman? You end up in abusive relationships, you end up with
Wow.
severe depression and anxiety, you end up with addiction. These are all symptoms. Food addiction is a symptom of neurodiversity, as is alcohol and other substances, as well as many other things, mental health conditions. So there's so many things that are symptoms of the main condition. So yeah, I decided that I was no longer going to sit quiet and just observe it. I wanted to speak out. So the book, now the podcast, next the TED Talk. That's kind of where I'm going with it now because it's time.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is time. Oh my gosh. And you mentioned something else that I kind of want to lean into here, and that's food addictions.
Yeah.
So on top, here's the thing that I'm seeing. It's like on top of the fact that because of their undiagnosed condition, they've got food addiction issues.
Yep.
And then on top of that, you have an industry, a food industry out there that has literally taken most packaged and boxed and pre-made foods and literally created science experiments out of those foods, put the perfect amount of ingredients, not good ingredients either,
Mm-mm.
the perfect amount of ingredients to bring people to the perfect bliss point, not above, not below, which then reaches what? The pleasure centers of the brain. And then what begins to happen is you begin to form new neural pathways. Your taste buds get retrained. Your cravings get redone, rewired, all of that. So, on top of the fact that you already have people out there that are undiagnosed, and because they're undiagnosed, that there's addictions created, and addictions into food, so they're automatically already running to food. But what a lot of these people also don't realize is there's an even deeper issue that is now 10x'd itself
Yep.
because they enter into a food system that is designed for addiction. So it's like a freaking double whammy, triple whammy, if you will, through that. And I find that quite disturbing.
Incredibly disturbing because if you look at the diagnoses for ADHD and autism, one of the things that they're seeking out all the time is a dopamine hit. And this,
Yes.
the dopamine hit comes from the processed poison. I mean, we have been human guinea pigs for the food industry for the
Yeah.
last 40 years. Yeah. We have been human guinea pigs. Let's see how addicted we can get them. The Autism Society in the UK are currently doing an in-depth study into food addiction and autistic people. You are 4 times more likely if you are on the spectrum to be addicted to food
Hmm.
than the average person. Okay, so if you're autistic, like you said, you're lagging, you're coming from behind anyway, and you've got this need for a dopamine hit. And guess what? They package it, put it in our food, and give it to us, and you can't do without it. So there's a
Yeah.
huge problem with obesity in the
And then
autistic society.
and then on top of it, it's marketed as what?
Yeah,
Healthy.
healthy. Yes.
That's like the worst part of it because here's the thing. Ah, and it's these cigarette companies that did that. That's a whole nother box. So I'm just going to kind of dance around it for a minute here so that I can make a point here. So then, so the cigarettes were designed obviously to be addictive, right?
Mhm.
But here's the difference. Cigarettes were eventually found out of being not healthy and, severe health consequences and all that other stuff. This food industry is hiding behind marketing everything as healthy. It still is very widely unknown what is really going on in that industry.
Mhm.
It's still being marketed as healthy. People are still buying into it, thinking they're making great decisions for themselves, their family, and their kids, and they're not. That's the detrimental part of it.
Yeah.
And it's these cigarette companies that have done it. Since their profits were declining back in the 1980s, 1990s, they took all their top scientists, researchers, and everyone else, and they started, they made a strategic switch. They went to our food system. It's just, it's, bleh. It's mind blowing.
Mhm. It is, and I'm Mandy, and I'm a food addict. I have been addicted to food. It has been my go-to drug of choice for decades.
Hmm.
And when grief hit me, when my husband died, which is nearly 5 years ago now, I, on average, gained 2 stone a year for the last 5 years, and ended up in a situation last year where it was a natural for me. I'm autistic. It was the natural dopamine hit for me to go to processed foods, sugary foods, to get that dopamine hit, to stop me feeling the grief and to start feeling better. And I took control of it last year, and I did my research into the food industry, and it scared me.
Hmm.
I have completely changed that, and I've lost 76 pounds now since I started last year. And I have control back, but it's only because I've done my research like you did and really looked into what does it take? What do I need to have a healthy diet? What do I need to change? It's a mindset shift as well as a food
Yeah.
shift. Yeah.
Mindset shift is key to how you're going to keep the weight off for sure.
Mhm. Yeah.
Absolutely. It cannot, it cannot, and it should have never been about a diet ever.
Mhm.
That
Nope.
doesn't fix anything. You're going to
Nope.
lose weight with a diet. I won't deny that, but you'll never keep it off. You've
Nope.
got to have the mindset shift. So very powerful. I got another question for you.
Hmm.
How does society's traditional view of intelligence and productivity sometimes hinder creativity potential, especially for neurodivergent individuals?
Yeah, it's an interesting question that because I did some research on that as well. Which is really, you know, the IQ quota that tells you how intelligent you are. Um, that, you know, if you're 140, you're a genius. Most creatives don't actually score high on that intelligence quota. However, the statistics that are out there say that people with dyslexia are actually the most intelligent people on the planet. They just,
Interesting.
yeah, it's scientifically proven that dyslexic people can be the most intelligent just because they jumble their letters and their numbers up, so they can't be assessed in the same way. They can solve problems in a completely different way. And dyslexia is on the spectrum, the autism spectrum. So we are made to feel as if being able to paint or to write is not as intelligent as having a maths qualification or a qualification in a science topic. And actually, you know
Fascinating.
what? Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? That, being able to look at something and translate that onto a canvas with brushes and paint, I think that's one of the most intelligent things you can do. It's an alternative view
Yeah.
of problem solving, isn't it? It's deconstructing what we see with our eyes and presenting it in a new way that most people that are left-brained could not do. I think that's really intelligent. So, yeah, a lot of people that are on the spectrum are highly intelligent. They just struggle to communicate it well. So, therefore, they might not get the grades that their academic counterparts get, but that does not mean they aren't equally intelligent.
Mm. And then here's the other thought, and I wrote this down too earlier. Here's the other thought that came to my mind. The education system is
Oh,
not helping these people either.
no.
Literally, the education system, here's how I describe it nowadays: sit down, shut up, and obey.
Yep.
And it's that is.
We're
I
teaching.
once I bought a book and I haven't read it, but I bought the book and I bought the book for the title because
Mhm.
the title was my language.
Yeah.
Weapons of Mass Instruction.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Brainwashing. We are
Yes.
in the UK, we are still teaching a Victorian system of education of maths, English, science. You must have these academic subjects, and down at the bottom there are the creative subjects. Now, both of my children have gone through mainstream school, and I've had to be tarantula mother in order to get them there. And
Yeah, I love that description. Tarantula.
I have been in managing those schools within an inch of their lives. But what I sat down with teachers and said, my daughter, my son can't learn the way you are teaching them. So what are you going to do to teach them better? And their answer is, we can't do anything. We've got to teach this way. This is the curriculum and we have to teach this way. And I said, then my daughter and my son will not get the grades that you know they're capable of. You're telling me my daughter could get an A in all her A levels. She's not going to because she can't learn the way you're teaching her. She's more of an activist and she needs to be hands on in there learning these subjects, not reading from books or listening to you because it's mind numbing for her. And they could not adapt. So I was like, you know what? Forget about it. Just do your best and you can follow a path that actually suits you. And I think you've got to support your children in enabling them to use creative subjects to express themselves fully and stop being reliant on a system that's brainwashing them. It's the same as the food industry, the education industry. It is an industry.
Yes.
Yeah, they're all businesses.
And an industry not for we the people.
No. No, they'll
No,
never suit all of the people, will they? And I think find a way to fight the system. And I did that. Like I say, tarantula mother. Both my children managed to scrape through school, and my daughter went to the subject that she loved and got a first class honours degree. She couldn't have got a higher score if she tried.
that is
She
amazing.
won the New Graduate Award out of all the universities in the north of England. She won the New Graduate Award. She exhibited at the Baltic Centre for Contemporary Art. She won the Middlesbrough Art Festival. Just accolade after accolade. Why? Because she was doing what she was really good at and what she loved. Now, why
Mm.
would you box that person up and say you need to have maths and English and science and geography and history? No, you don't. When are you going to use those again?
Thank you. Right? I'm grateful. You know what? I'm really grateful that I graduated high school at a time that I did. So
Mhm,
I graduated high school at a time where certain laws weren't in place. So I didn't have to have certain classes. I graduated high school literally because I had enough credits to graduate. Never took a
mhm,
science class, never took a foreign language. Actually, I did take a science class. I dropped out midway through because I was bored and I was frustrated. I did not agree with the beliefs, that man was created from ape. I, 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 I just wanted nothing to do with that. I managed to squeeze by only doing pre-algebra, never passing algebra. Um, oh my gosh, tons of stuff. I don't even think I passed my history class. I graduated because I had enough credits. And when I got out of high school, I was so happy that it was done, it was over, and it was gone because some people love their high school years. I did not.
mhm.
I did not.
No.
I was, it just wasn't really a fun time. There were some good times and people that I met and stuff like that. But overall, when it was all said and done, I felt like I was free, and I then tried to go back to junior college to kind of, further learn things and different things like that. That lasted a little bit. And eventually I, dropped out of that too. And then partly because at the time my job was kind of taking most of my time. And then what's funny is actually, before I go into that, see, here's the other thing I experienced through the school system. I went through a time where, see, I was legitimately ADHD, so much so I was on Ritalin as a kid and all kinds of different things like that. But it was also during a time where the school system they didn't know how to handle
Mhm.
ADHD kids. I was often shoved into mentally retarded classes. I was often shoved into handicap classes. I had a teacher come at me with a broom one time. Um, oh my gosh. Horrible school system years. And it wasn't until later, you know, it wasn't until later that I really started to embrace and understand my own creativity and skills.
Mhm.
I'm glad I did. But geez, right? It's like the school system did nothing to empower me.
I think a lot of ADHD and autistic kids are labeled the naughty kids, and they are not
Yes.
naughty. They are bored. They are bored because you are teaching in a way, yeah. That's the problem. Boredom is one of the traits that I've noticed is we get bored. We've got to have multiple things on the go at any one time.
I'm that kid. Oh, here, I gotta tell a couple of these stories because they're hilarious. They're hilarious now. They
Yeah.
weren't hilarious for my mom and my parents. I literally just because and you'll hear the ADHD, the bored, the creativity in me. I used to think it was funny. So in my bathroom, I used to take liquid soap and I used to squirt it into the plug socket because I was entertained by the sounds that plug socket made.
I love that.
Until one time, it was a morning, I'd squirted some in there and then we left to go somewhere. I came back Good thing I didn't burn down the house. But I came back and there was a streak of like black going up the wall, like the plug socket had gotten too hot. It never worked again after that. And I also used to like to make little mud balls and throw
Mhm.
them in the neighbor's yard over the fence because I liked the sounds it would make. I thought it was hilarious. I would just burst out in laughter because it was so funny. The only unfortunate thing is one of those times when I was doing that, the neighbors had recently got brand new carpet
Oh
in
no.
there, and some of those mud balls were going straight into the house because they had it open.
Mhm.
Things like that. I
But
would
we
get
are very
entertained by
sensory
the most crazy like things that, it's like, why would you do that? Because I like the sound it made.
because we are sensory beings. ADHD means you're sensory. So sound is important, smell is important, touch is important. You either hate it or you love it. And visualization is important. All of these senses, if this is where the boredom comes from. If there's no sound and you're listening to the droning voice of a teacher teaching you boring history, nothing is stimulating your sensory system. And therefore your dopamine's not being hit, is it? All of those
Mm.
things sit within neurodiversity. And actually, how can these children thrive in that environment? They can't.
No, they can't. I'll tell one more story and then we do need to wrap up here.
Yeah.
Start to wrap up, but I love this because so above us used to be a couple of really good friends of mine. They lived there for quite some time, and I used to babysit their kids all the time. Before we lived down here, I used to come down for the weekend and stay at their place up there. Well, when my friends' kids were really young, there's this one Sunday morning, and I used to go to church with them. There's this one Sunday morning, I was all cuddled up in my sleeping bag on the living room floor in their living room. And Gracie and Noah, their two kids, were sitting at the dining room table. And I woke up and I kept hearing something really strange. And I was like, what is that sound? And then out of Noah's mouth, he's like, Gracie, watch this. And then I hear him giggle. And I happen to peek my head up just enough to see that he was taking his cereal in his spoon and he was flicking it into the blinds on the window. Did I do anything to stop it? No. I crouched down into my sleeping bag and I was giggling all get out to myself because it was entertaining to me. And then I said to myself, I'm like, oh, because Nikki was in the shower. The mom, yeah, she was in the shower. And I said to myself, I'm like, oh, when Nikki gets out of the shower, it's gonna be, oh my god, she's not gonna be happy. But again, I still did nothing to stop it. Why? Because I was entertained by it.
Yeah.
And it's something that I would do. And in matter of
Mhm.
fact, I did do a version of that. All I'll say is it was very interesting the day I discovered the ceiling fan.
I don't need to know anymore.
Anyhow, here's what I want to kind of start wrapping up with. For a person that struggles with creativity or struggles with the neurodiversity or maybe might be autistic or anything, that your ideal client, what are 3 to 5 things that you would give them that they can start doing right now as they're
Mhm.
listening to this interview and they can start implementing in their life? What are 3 to 5 things that would set them free, that would open up their creativity, that would just do all the things?
I think, use those tools. You firstly create I have a 4 foot mind map. Create yourself a mind map of all the things that you would love to be doing. What would you love to be doing every single day if money wasn't an issue and time wasn't an issue? Write them down and create a mind map of all the things that you could do and start setting yourself some goals. Now, you don't have to do it the traditional way. You can do it on post-it notes. You can write it on, you can paint it, you can draw it, make it colorful, create yourself a visual. I use all of the sensory things when I'm working with my clients. So I create an audio script of the perfect life and the perfect day that I want you to have. What does that sound like? Listen to yourself.
Mm,
So listen to yourself talking about what you want to achieve. Goals don't always have to be written down, but you can listen to an audio every day. But if you
mm,
like a visual, create a visual, create a big visual. So what I would say to you is do it your way. Don't listen to what people are telling you you should do. Find a way to do it in a way that fits with you because it's powerful if you can do that. It's freeing and it's empowering, and that's what you need. I also love, the superhero pose. Let's be a superhero today and go into your superhero Wonder Woman pose. Stand like that for a couple of minutes and repeat some affirmations. If you're visual, if you're auditory, say them out loud. I've been saying the same affirmations every day for the last 5 or 6 years. I am strong. I am powerful. I am well. I live a wealthy and abundant life. Money comes easily and effortlessly to me from multiple different sources.
mm.
So I've got this, and I can reel them off because I say them every day out loud. So create yourself these sensory things, listening to yourself saying, and convince yourself you have all the power. You can change your life today. But what do you want it to look like? What do you want it to feel like? What do you want it to sound like? Who's around you and what are they saying about you
Mm.
when you're this powerful person in your life?
That is,
Those are the things I would do today is use your sensory. If you're creative or neurodiverse, use those senses.
you hit something too that I can't help. I've got to share.
Mhm.
You said, do it your way. And it triggered in my head. I'm like, and that's exactly what I did when I lost my 62.5 pounds. I did
Mhm.
it my way. I didn't want to go on a diet, didn't want to follow a system. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't want to let anybody, probably not the best. I probably should have had some kind of accountability or mentor. Um, but I decided to do it my way. And little did I know that was the best decision that I could have done.
Yeah.
Because now, because of that decision I made, I have a thriving program in which
Yeah.
I'm helping people get results because I did it my way. I learned a way through the system. I learned a way to lose my weight and have my cake and eat it too, which is
Yeah.
exactly what I wanted. Um, and I dropped the weight. So I mean, it's just I love that. Do it your way. Be
And find
creative, and
do what you've done. Do
another thing I'll speak into that with is find your life hacks. I
yeah.
love to find hacks around stuff, different ways of doing things. There's even gym equipment at the gym that is broken unless you know how to hack it and still make it work. And it's so funny. I get a lot of joy out of that. So yeah, I'm always about finding life's little hacks that I can hack my way around something in a way nobody would have ever thought of.
I call that the path of least resistance. Let's find the most productive way to do everything. And then I always say as well to my clients, how you do anything is how you do everything. So find the creative way and find that creative way in every single
Mm.
area of your life and your business.
That is just amazing. Mandy, you've shared a lot of gold on today's episode. I love this. I love this. Do you have any last minute words or thoughts before I wrap up with a couple of announcements?
I think, for me, my last words to you is you already have all that you need. You've got to make the decision, choose to change, and then go and hang out with the people who've already done it and that can help you get there.
Hmm. That is absolutely amazing and gold as well. And lastly, how can people reach out to you and connect with you? Mind you, you guys, all her links are going to be in the description below this video. But Mandy, I want to give you the opportunity to explain what they're going to see on those links, and you even have a free gift going on there. So explain that too.
Okay, so I've got two websites. You can find me on mandynicholson.co.uk and the artbankdalbeatty.com. Those are my two websites. I am on all the socials. If you type in Mandy Nicholson, you're going to find me. I'll come at the top of the Google search. And yes, there's a freebie there, The Mind of a Creative. If you sign up for that freebie, you get an instant downloadable PDF, a little video from me. You're in my mailing list, so you're going to get loads of goodies and advice anyway. So do sign up for it. But yeah, reach out. If you want to have a conversation with me, I will find time to have a conversation with you.
Mm, amazing, amazing. Mandy, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. And before we end the show, you guys, I've got something really special for you. So you've heard me talk about a little bit about my journey. I've lost 62.5 pounds, kept it off for going on 7 years now, easily, sustainably, all without a diet. It's weight loss the way it should be. Weight loss the way it's supposed to be. That is the slogan of my brand. My brand is Mastery Weight Loss. And right now, I am giving away my 3 secrets to help you break free from those sugar addictions, to help you conquer the snacking issues, the hunger issues, even the emotional eating that most people beat themselves up over, and also lose that last 20 pounds and all that. All in just 3 one-on-one sessions with me. You'll be equipped with an empowered mindset shift. Number one. Number two, you're going to be equipped to see past the industry lies and avoid the common pitfalls. And at number three, you will be equipped to see past the marketing deceptions of the industry, which we've also talked about. They package things as healthy all the time. And if you're not paying attention, you're buying into it. 80 to 90% of the people are still buying into that marketing. I help you see past all of that and help you to come out on the other end, standing on a ground with more freedom in your food choices than you ever thought possible. You will never look at food the same way again in a really good and freeing way. Again, it's all in 3 one-on-one sessions with me. My boot camp has been valued at $1,500, and I do mean that literally. I've given an insider look to a couple master coaches. I had one, her name is Daniela. She told me that my boot camp, she would expect to pay $1,000 for it. I had another one. She told me that she would expect to pay $1,500 for it. My boot camp right now is going for only $97 for as long as that lasts. I may raise it sometime in the future. My coach has already given me hints today that she wants me to raise that. So I would jump in. Look, you've got nothing to lose but those extra pounds, and you've got everything to gain in the right way. So, with that, you guys, have a great rest of your day or evening, depending on where you are in the world and what time of day you're listening. And I'll catch you on the next episode. Mandy, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on today's show. I really wish that I could go longer. I want to go longer, but I do have a call at the top of the hour. Um, it's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome.